Magalofatu and good evening. I'm Sarai Mangawa and this is your BCN News. Leading our news tonight, on Monday this week, the government confirmed newest first cases of community transmission. BCN News understands there were 5 cases identified as community transmission on Monday. With the increasing number of cases detected over the past week, government and health officials are urging the public to maintain precautionary COVID-19 measures. According to yesterday's COVID-19 update, Niue currently has 41 active cases of COVID-19. 11 new cases were detected, while 3 of the previously active cases have fully recovered and have been released from isolation. BCN News understands although it is Niue's first community transmission, the island has already experienced its first community outbreak a few months ago. We take a look back at the timeline when Niue first detected its community cases leading up to its community transmission, which was confirmed by the government on Monday this week. On July 29th, the government announced that Niue has detected its first community cases not linked to the border. This resulted in immediate effect of COVID-19 alert code red with no lockdown. And as the numbers continued to rise, there was a nationwide rapid antigen test community campaign that was held on August 6th, which was to help mitigate and control the spread of the virus, where we could see 78% of the total population who did participated or returned negative COVID test results. And as the numbers continued to dwindle, on August 10th, Niue shifted from alert code red to alert code yellow. And as the numbers continued to decline some more, the government announced the shift from COVID disaster response to recovery phase on October 4th. And as we reached last week, November 22nd, 2 cases were identified to be under investigation to determine whether they are community-linked or border-linked. And as of Monday this week, the government announced and confirmed Niue's first community transmission. A general confusion to the term community cases and community transmission has allowed government and health officials to differentiate and make clear the definitions of the terms. According to Director General of Health and Social Services, Gayleen Tasmania, in an RNZ Pacific online article yesterday, explained that community transmission means a case has not been linked to any other infections, such as those who are either positive cases or close contacts. Sir Colin Tugitonga also explained in an article, you can have a community case that is not from a community transmission. This is a case that is in the community connected to the border, but this person is now in the community. That is not community transmission. The official Niue COVID-19 dashboard no longer identifies the number of community and border-linked cases. Since COVID-19 first entered into Niue in March this year, the island has recorded a total of 147 cases of COVID-19, where 106 of the cases have fully recovered. Former Cabinet Minister Honourable Joan Dahafa Viliamu was laid to rest last Friday, 25th of November at Alofi. She passed away at the Niue Full Hospital in the early hours of Friday morning, surrounded by her family. She was 56 years old. Here's more on this story.
Honourable Joan Viliamu was only the 3rd woman to be appointed as a Cabinet Minister in nearly 50 years of self-government. She was elected as a Common Roll member from 2011 to 2020 and served as a minister in the former Sir Tokatalangi cabinet from 2011 to 2014. Honourable Joan Viliamu was the Minister for Health, Community Affairs, which includes Women, Youth and Sports, and the Minister for Broadcasting. BCN News understands that Joan Viliamu was living with acute renal failure and chose to spend her final days with her family and her grandchildren, declining numerous recommendations from the Health Department for medical referral to New Zealand. Joan Viliamu may have been only one of the few women to be elected to the Niue Parliament and an even smaller number to be appointed a Cabinet Minister, and she will be remembered for her love and commitment to her children and her grandchildren. Her funeral service was held at the Ekalesia Alofi on Friday afternoon last week, led by Reverend Nevi Salatielu. Joan was originally from the village of Tuapa, married Dimitri Viliamu of Alofi South, where they lived and raised their family. Her brother Tomasi Talangi read the family genealogy from the Talangi side, and her uncle, Honourable Fisa Pihingia, spoke on behalf of her mother's Pihingia family. Honourable Joan Viliamu's children paid tribute to their beloved mother and grandmother, with daughter Constable Narita Viliamu Tahanga and her son Clayton Viliamu, her granddaughter Ila Joan, and her daughter-in-law Leilani Viliamu speaking. Honourable Joan Viliamu is survived by her husband Dimitri, their 5 children and 15 grandchildren.
The governments of Niue and China have shared a history of diplomatic relations since it was first officiated in 2007. And last Thursday evening, both governments were able to commemorate 15 years of its friendship. The highlight of the evening was when Premier Dalton Tangilangi delivered most of his speech in Mandarin Chinese. Here's more on this story. Held at scenic Matavai Resort in Tamakotanga, the reception welcomed the presence of the People's Republic of China, Ambassador to Niue, His Excellency Wang Xiaolong, and his delegation. Speeches followed, firstly by Premier Tangilangi, who once again delighted the crowd with his expert attempt, delivering most of his speech in Mandarin Chinese, as he did for the first time for the pre-start ceremony of the roading project.
我相信中国人民给心为系去的说变出黑继续。
The local Niueans were astounded by the Premier's attempt, and so was Ambassador Wang Xiaolong and his delegation, who smiled and nodded in an acknowledgement to his attempt.
Niue has enjoyed a close friendship with the People's Republic of China since the 12th of December in 2007. Let me also say that Niue has permeated here ever since we signed on to the One China policy. And the people of Niue will always value the friendship that we have with the Chinese people. We're forever grateful for our relationship with China and for their support to our development aspirations for Niue. We have current project on the ground, the roading project, the Niue Broadcasting, the Sikana Tower Maintenance project.
Ambassador Xiaolong in his speech acknowledged the Premier's attempt in his native tongue, which he found quite impressive compared to the little knowledge he had of the Niue language.
Over the past 15 years, China and Niue have helped each other through thick and thin. Back in 2005, even before the establishment of diplomatic ties, the Chinese government decided to render support to Niue to deal with the aftermath of a cyclone. And in 2008, 1 year after the beginning of the official relationship, when China suffered the 7.8 magnitude earthquake in Wenchuan, Niue offered help to China for post-disaster reconstruction. Such a kind and generous gesture touched the hearts of tens of thousands of Chinese people.
Ambassador Xiaolong proposed a toast in the commemoration of the 15 years that the governments of Niue and China have shared diplomatic relations. Followed after was a few words of acknowledgement from Minister of Finance and Infrastructure, Crossley Tatui, where he also proposed a toast. The rest of the evening saw the enjoyment of the food and special items, firstly from renowned local artist, producer and singer Glenn Jackson, who sang his original soundtrack Only You, both in Niuean and in Mandarin Chinese. The final performance was given by the Hakupu Youth. Traditional song and dance delighted the audience, especially Ambassador Xiaolong and his delegation, to the beauty of the Niue culture displayed through their lively performance. The smallest village of the island, Namukulu, is known to punch above its weight when it comes to hosting events. And on Saturday, they did just that, celebrating 100 years since the village of Namukulu was established, moving away from the village of Tuapa Uhomotu in 1922. A beautiful commemoration which brought families and the people together to mark a historical milestone.
The village has fewer than 10 residents but is supported by much larger extended families who live in other villages, putting on a tremendous feast to celebrate 100 years since the village was established in 1922. The event started with a church service led by the first female pastor on the island, Reverend Hariasa Faitala, who served as the pastor for Namukulu for several years. After the church service, the flags to mark the centennial anniversary were raised, along with the village flag, the New Zealand Anywhere national flags. Everyone who spoke on the day acknowledged and thanked Namukulu Member of Parliament, Honourable Jack Willie Lipitoa and his wife Maka, for the many decades they carried the work of the village. Donations given for the event on Saturday and at the church service on Sunday totaled to $43,000.
Year 4 and Year 6 students of Niue Primary School outperformed their peers in the region and other small island states in numeracy, reading and writing. This is according to the findings of the Pacific Islands Literacy and Numeracy Assessment, also known as the Pilner Report of 2021. The report also showed significant improvement in student performance compared to 2018's assessment. Here's more on this story.
A further analysis of the Pilner findings found that the girls at both levels at Niue Primary School outperformed the boys. The assessment also found that there is an increase in the percentage of students at or above the expected levels in numeracy and reading in 2021 at Niue Primary School compared to 2018. The Pacific Islands Literacy and Numeracy Assessment 2021 was the first regional large-scale study to provide information about the ongoing effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and other disruptive events such as natural disasters on student performance in literacy and numeracy. The Minister of Social Services and Education, Honourable Sauni Tongatule, congratulated the Niue Primary School, its principal Carol Edwards, the teachers for the performance of the Year 4 and Year 6 students.
For several years, the issue of the tsunami sirens not working has continued to be a pressing concern amongst the general members of the public, especially during alerts of a natural disaster. However, BCN News understands that a technician has arrived on the island to test all the tsunami sirens beginning on Monday this week, and the testing of the sirens concluded today.
On the National Disaster Management Facebook page, NDMO office informed the public to be aware of the sirens being tested this week, starting on Monday and completing today. BCN News is aware that during the last tsunami advisory around midnight on Friday the 11th of November, people on the island were talking about the silence from the sirens set up to warn people of tsunamis. On that night, some residents in central Olofi said that they could barely hear the siren, located close to the old primary school at Halamahanga. It is not yet clear why the sirens did not sound, but it's understood that the systems had not been working properly since before the COVID pandemic in 2020. BCN News reached out to the Chief of Police, Timothy Wilson, for more information, but he said that they are not able to comment until the completion of the testing.
Radio Sunshine is Niue's premier local radio station since 1967. This week, the announcers who work the morning shows and potential new radio presenters took part in a training program with Inangalo Vakaafi of Pacific Media Network and who is also a board member of BCN. A two-day training workshop which began on Tuesday and concluded on Wednesday this week showed great progress on how radio announcers and producers could better develop their roles. For those who did attend, they were able to learn more about what it is to be a radio producer and announcer. Ina Vakaafi reminded the group of the basic fundamentals of working on radio, that of consistency, content and preparation. Acting General Manager Esther Pavihi of BCN informed the workshop that the national broadcaster is looking to introduce changes to Radio Sunshine in the middle of next year, given the current competitive space of online radio stations. Radio Sunshine has an advantage as the first Niue radio station, but there is a need to improve content that will keep its listeners engaged and not to switch to other overseas-based online radio stations. Cultivating young and new talent was also in the discussions of these changes that the BCN hope to implement beginning next year. BCN is grateful to the trainer Inangalo Vakafi, who is a radio producer for Pacific Media Network and co-host for Island Time on 531 PI, for offering this workshop to help develop and upskill our radio presenters. Ina is also one of the newly appointed members of the BCN board and a former BCN reporter. Newest team to the Oceania World Powerlifting Championships in Melbourne, Australia earlier last month have claimed 7 golds and 1 bronze medal. Newest powerlifting team manager Emma Kamupala posted on social media the successful competition of Newest Team of 3, where all lifters won at least 1 gold medal. Osana Sioneholo reports.
17-year-old Chrysalinsi Penny won 4 gold medals, Alentano won 2 gold medals, and the youngest member of the team, 14-year-old Ailani Mautama, won 1 gold and 1 bronze medal. In the lead up to this competition, each member of the team of 3 were raising funds to get them to the competition in Melbourne. Coach and athlete Alentano Pugliosi told PCN News that Niue World Powerlifting did not receive any funding from the national sporting body NISCA because powerlifting is not yet an official event of the Commonwealth Games. The team is now back in Auckland on their way back home after a very successful medal haul at the Oceania Powerlifting Championships.
And that is our news bulletin for tonight. Do join us again next Tuesday for our Wangahau Niue Bulletin with Esther Pavihi. Until then, wishing you all a early Merry Christmas. Kia munuina.